Lovely people from around the world. Welcome to Gigi for Life, a podcast where best friends unwind and share their Haitian American journey.
That's right. I'm Emily's. Hello, everyone, and welcome. And with me is my ride or die, Fernand. We're here to talk about everything from growing up in Miami to navigating life's current events. So,
Call your own ride or die. Grab a drink. Oh, got my drink right here. Let your hair down. It's time for us ladies to.
what? Oh,
What?
don't forget to hit that like button if you like what you're hearing, or subscribe if you just can't get enough.
There you go. Now. All right.
Yeah, Fernand.
New week. We're getting ready for the weekend. How was your week, darling?
Action packed. It's never a moment in this place, but we're moving right along. What about you?
Action packed too. Everything's been busy, but good. All good stuff. Always good. Good. So it's like, I can't believe the week is almost over.
I know. It's like you look up 1 minute, it's Sunday, and the next day it's Friday. Like, how does that happen? It's just too much. Time waits for no one, and it is moving very fast.
That's true. That's true. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple of wonderful topics today. But first, we're going to start off with get off your chest. You got
Okay,
anything
girl, get it off your chest.
for me? Only thing that I have to get off my chest today, I would say, is I went to the most beautiful wedding I have been to in such a long time. What made it so beautiful, Gami,
Uh-huh.
in the backyard, like on a farm, outside with a tent lit up.
Mm,
And it was just so beautiful, like in the meadows, open field. It was rustic. The
I love
color, like white flowers.
mm,
Candles everywhere. It was like white roses and green, and it was just simplistic, elegant, and intimate.
and I'm visualizing it as you speak. I'm like, yes, I'm there with you.
It was so beautiful, so beautiful. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today, but I don't have them. I'm like, next go round, we'll talk about it.
Uh-huh.
She had the bride had the most absolute beautiful, I would say, postmodern woman nuptials
Mm,
that I have ever heard. And it was so well put together and so well thought through
mm,
that the essence of it was she talked about who she was as an individual, as a person, as a woman, what she stood for, her values, and how the love of this man helped her just not discover herself, so to speak, but
mhm.
made it easy for her to go down that road to
Oh,
discovery.
nice.
And she said something that I thought was so beautiful. Some people, it take a lot to love them.
Mhm.
She said, this man is easy to love.
Mm,
It's just easy.
wow.
Me, that was,
That's beautiful.
isn't it?
That's beautiful.
I want her exact words because I'm going to read it to everyone because I think it's so powerful, it's so empowering, and so insightful to that's when you know you're ready to get married.
Yeah.
You
I
know what I
would yeah, I would love to hear it because the way you talk about it, yes, the wedding, visualize it, but and I think that's something that we don't think about, having these type of nuptials, words that are meaningful to us. We're so used to having someone else tell us what that is, whoever it may be, whether it's the preacher, the pastor, whoever it may be, um, tell us what marriage is about or who we are or who are supposed to be in the marriage. And when you have someone like this young lady who just got married, who is able to articulate that for herself and for her audience, it just brings a total different perspective to going into this marriage knowing who you are, knowing who you are. And I think that sometimes marriages, specifically for women, because we have to shed a part of ourselves away when we take on our husband's last name. We become this person and we don't even understand that we are losing a piece of ourselves when we take on someone else's last name. That isn't yours. It's part of your identity that you have to cut off. And the fact that she can articulate her own journey from the time they met to the time to this point to understand who she really is, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, a couple things that she said, I don't know exactly how she said it, but I even Geraldo was like, "Eh,
Mhm.
yes. Right. Looked at it like that's so different
Mhm.
versus I looked at it like it's empowering
Yeah.
because it's not your traditional way of looking or going into a marriage.
Yeah.
It's a modern day of looking at a marriage saying, okay, we're going together. I'm not, you don't necessarily complete me.
Yeah.
Add to me
We
or make it.
yeah.
And I don't want to like distort her words or whatever, but
Mhm. Mhm.
it, the essence of it was that way. And I thought it was absolutely beautiful.
That is awesome. And I think while we're on the subject, and I know it's probably not planned, but while we are on the subject of marriage and the subject of nuptials, one of the things that came to mind, which is leading to the piece that I said about losing identity with women, part of marriage, we lose our identity. I feel, even though I did take on my husband's last name and he didn't think that I was going to take his last name because my last name is very unique. When you hear that last name, if you hear anybody with my last name, you're like, okay, they're family because it's so unique. My maiden name, Cubian. And over the last, I guess, as myself looking for my own self identity, because I felt like it's been lost in so many different things, so many life's happenings and everything. And I was having this thought that says, you know what, women, as women, when we get into a relationship with someone, we lose so much of ourselves, right? We get married, we take on someone else's last name, which then cuts our family ties, that connection that we have in terms of family. Oh, if I hear Victor, if I may use your maiden
Yeah.
name, if I hear Victor, I know this is family. Now you're like Fernand Georges, and and people are thinking, who's Fernand Georges? If they don't know that you're married, it's, oh, I don't know who that person is. And then where you lose the identity is if you have another generation that's coming down. They don't know you because they don't recognize that name. And I just think the African culture, so there are other cultures that does it so beautifully where they maintain their lin their bloodline, the last name on the mother side, they're keeping the last name on the mother side and taking on the last name on the father side as well. While it may be long, they have that name. And I think that is so important because it helps to keep you connected to your family. It helps to keep you connected to your bloodline. When you take on the other person, like your spouse identity, you don't know who you are. You become everything you do. It's like your family doesn't get credit for anything anymore because they don't know you as that name. You've become this other person. And this other person, last name, so to speak, even though it's part of your last name, but they get all the accolade. they get all the accolades of the accomplishment that you've made in your life, the accomplishments that you've made in the community because they recognize that last name. And I think as women, we give up so much. As mothers, we lose a part of ourselves when we become parents. Then we get married, we lose. It's just the overpacking of all of that, I think causes a lot of us not to know who we are because we lose this identity. And now we have to take on this new identity and have to fit into this mold of this new identity. What's your thought? I just thought I'd share that.
No, no, I agree. And I kept my maiden name as my middle name. So
Mhm.
the only thing is because of that, because of exactly what you said, because I felt this is who I am. This is
Mhm.
who I'm as. Why I gotta give away my name and who I look at myself as just because we get married. And I understand we're becoming a family and we can still be considered that as a family, but I I thought it was a weird tradition that we did, but I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. But it took me a long time to change my name. I did not want to change it.
Yeah.
We went back and forth because of the very reason of what you're saying now. I just I don't want to give up that because and I was close to my dad. And my
Yeah.
thing, I want to always have that.
Yeah.
Here, like I know regardless, I'm my dad's daughter. It's a lot to me. But I know different people take things a little bit differently. And like you said, because of the culture and stuff like that, and how people recognize that traditional conservative way of doing things and
Mhm.
generations. But I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
I do. Why not have the man give up his name? Why is it that we have to give up our names? It's such
Yeah.
a, and they want to say, "Huh," like people say, it's a woman.
But Mary,
No, it's not a woman. Be it to certain points, but they have to say so. We don't even have control over our bodies. Come on.
yeah, come on now. I just thought that was important because I was just thinking back. I was thinking about my mom. I was thinking about my mother's side of the family, even with our children. Like my mother's side of the family with my girls, it's not connected.
Yeah.
There's reasons for it in terms of we live in a different state and we hadn't attended a lot of the family functions as much as we would like to. But that part of their family, they have no connection with the Mazard family. And I'm like, what would be wrong with me calling myself my birth name, Emanise, first, honor my mother with her family's last name, Emanise Mazard, then my father, because without her, there would not be me.
Yeah. I
Then,
like,
yeah, Emanise Mazard Pubian Gordon. So every family gets recognized and not lose their identity because you got married or the woman had a child and then now the child had to have to take the father's last name. Why not keep it where everybody's recognized and nobody feel like they're getting the short end of the stick? It's Yeah. It's just a thought. It's just been like one of those things, like I said, as I'm looking for my own identity, and I realize it's so rooted, my identity is so rooted in who I am, not only as a Haitian woman, but that my mother, who birthed me for 9 years, don't have the privilege or the honor of me carrying her name.
yeah. Mm. And the funny thing is, think about it. So, in a lot of cultures with women, it's seen as okay, you got to get married. All right, we push you to get married at a certain
Mhm.
age, and then you assume that name.
Yeah.
When you're really kids. As a woman, you're really like a kid. Even if you look at women, although nowadays it's different than back in the day, women are supposed to get married younger. Back
Yeah.
then, like now it's different, but back
Mhm.
then younger. So really, you don't really become a woman, I think personally, until you're in your late 20s because you don't really discover yourself until you're in your like mid 20s of really realizing, wow, who I am, what I like, what I don't like, the world. And think about it at that way. at that age of you discovering yourself, you're supposed to identify with this man or
Mhm.
identify with your husband in a sense. Are you discovering yourself or are you discovering your place with this man?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. Yeah.
That makes no sense because then it's like a property, of course. It's like you becoming his property to think and do for him as
Mhm.
opposed to how are you gonna build? I think that's really weird and it's a disservice. And I know many cultures still do that, but it you're not valued for your brain. You're just valued what you can give for to him,
Mhm.
whether it be multiplying babies or
Yeah.
a meal or whatever. But
Yeah, I just thought it was just it's important to keep that family line, the connection, because I have so many cousins. I come from a huge family just by the name itself. I know if I hear this name, it's family. If I hear that name on my father's side, it's family. But nobody would know me because I don't identify as that name. I identify as my husband's last name. Granted, he was surprised that I changed my last name, but it's just trying to go back to that. I just think we're as women, we're not honored in a way for the things that we do in terms of birthing children, having children. As soon as we have the children, we give up our identity. Then the children become take on and they know nothing about you. They don't know your other part of the family, your maternal side of the family. Sometimes they know if the connection is not there to keep that going, it gets so diluted, it gets so lost. And then you bring on marriage into that. The girls, the women loses and the guys, the boys maintain their identity. And I think that's so unfair.
yeah.
So
You know what? What do you think? Put it in the comments. Let us know. What do you think? What do you think should be? How should we look at this? How should we raise our girls? How should we raise our boys?
absolutely.
Interested.
I think it'll be an interesting points of view just to hear what people have to say. But for me personally, I want to recognize my mother for the work that she did to carry me for 9 months and gave birth to me. And I don't want her last name or the family lineage to go unrecognized. So,
Love that. I
yeah.
absolutely love that. So for our audience today, our topic is forgiveness. Now we got some comments like suggestions of let's talk about forgiveness. People thought that would be a very interesting topic and they kind of learned from us
Oh, it's a view.
our points of view, especially
Mhm.
coming from a Haitian background and how we view forgiveness. And forgiveness in three ways forgiveness in the way of just oneself, like how do we look at forgiveness within ourselves
Mhm.
of, I guess, whatever we've done, forgiveness
Mhm.
within like,
Friendships. Yeah.
and I'm taking friendships as also like relationships, not just on a friend aspect, but also acquaintances or close
Yeah.
acquaintances
Work, relationships. Ex-
relationships.
mhm.
Exactly. And then for family. And
Mhm.
family is a big part of it too. And
Part of it. Yeah.
definitely ways there that you have difference of opinion, you have difference of value sometimes. And it's a big deal, especially when it comes to family and
Absolutely.
maintaining ties and what have you. I thought that was pretty different because forgiveness is not necessarily a concept that I think our Haitian culture kind of looks at a lot.
Yeah.
We view it a little bit differently than a lot of other cultures.
Mhm.
And I think folks are mostly into the forgiveness aspect when it comes to the religious factor of you're supposed to still look at it differently. And but to me, no one ever goes into what does that mean?
What does it really mean to forget? What does it mean? Yeah.
So you tell me, what do you think? What do you think, or what is forgiveness to you?
Are you asking me or are you just putting it out there?
we could put it out there, but I'm thinking, have you ever thought about it? Does it have any type of meaning to you? Or, well, it comes to your like forgiveness within yourself, or how do you look at it?
Let's tackle it. Okay. So for me, when I think about forgiveness for myself, I think about looking at certain situation, depending on what the situation is. Some things you do or some decisions that you make, you may feel like, oh, I did not make the right decision. I did not do the right thing. How does that impact your morale? Where do you stand? What is it about this thing that you did that requires you to forgive yourself? So I think it's deeper than just, oh, I did this thing and I'm going to forgive myself. No, you did this thing. What was the cause? What's the effect of that? What the outcome is? Who did you hurt? How did it make this person feel? Is this something that you can live with yourself? And I'm speaking on oneself. So as you alluded to, forgiveness is not something that is a Haitian construct. Forgiveness, I believe, is a construct based from the US or other places. But in the Haitian community, we don't go around asking anybody to forgive us for anything. We don't. If there's a disagreement, you have a discussion, somebody might say something that's hurtful and they may apologize for what they said, but to say, "I want you to forgive me," it's not a Haitian construct. So what is it am I forgiving you for? So when I think about forgiveness for myself, I take those things into consideration. What am I asking myself forgiveness for? What do I need to forgive? I did something, yes. Okay. It may not have been the right thing to do, but the only person I think that can forgive me is the universal God or whoever it may be, the ancestors, the universe, your God. And sometimes we are hard on ourselves, depending on what it is, but it's your guilt that makes you feel a certain way. It's not a matter of forgiveness, it's your guilt. So if you did something that you weren't supposed to do, that guilt is going to eat away at you. That guilt is going to eat away at you. You have to talk yourself out of whatever it is that you did in order for you to feel the way that you want to feel. How do you ask yourself for forgiveness? How do you ask yourself for forgiveness? You, the person that did the thing, is the same person that's asking the person that did the thing to now forgive you. I don't know. It's
Love
a
that.
yeah, it's a little different. I think it's good that you sit with yourself, you think about what you did, and then you say, okay, mm, I'm sorry for the part that I took in doing this thing. I have to do better. I will sit with myself. And then maybe next time I'm in that situation, it gives me some data. It gives me some history for me to understand how that made me feel when I did that before and what I will not do again. But to do the thing, to be the person that did the thing, and then come to and say, I need to ask myself for forgiveness, to me, it's an oxymoron. It's okay. I can I go to the universe. I don't know, but I for oneself. So what do you think about it? How does it align with you?
I ditto everything that you just said. I totally agree. I think we're hardest on ourselves because
Mhm.
of the fact that we look at ourselves and what we want for ourselves. And a lot of it has our upbringing up or you can do better. You're
Mhm.
not you type thing. And you look at whatever that you did, you got to make a pact with yourself, so to speak,
Yeah.
of saying, okay, that was wrong.
Mhm.
And you look at yourself and you say, okay, that was wrong. Here's why I did it. I know better. I don't want to do it again. And then you make whatever alterations, whatever changes, what
Conscious visions.
going forward. And that's how you remedy anyways,
Yeah,
because I think the thing is, us as humans, we're flawed. We're
very.
not, we're sinners. Yeah, we're flawed. That's how we were made, you
Mhm,
know? That's why we try to teach our kids, and I guess we're taught we have those inclinations to do things that perhaps may go contrary to whatever society says
mhm,
or within a particular family,
mhm.
because I think it's just the construct of how we were made,
Yeah,
honestly. And I think with that, we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to do things perfect because we have that, like I always say, the little angel and the little
mhm,
devil. We
mhm.
all have it. We all have those things, and we got to weigh the consequences. And
Absolutely.
it's light.
Yeah,
And the thing is, okay, let's say you went on the dark side for a moment. I think it depends on how that dark side is.
yeah.
You just got to look at it. Okay, wait a minute. What's the causation?
Mm,
I'm going to give an example, and this is going to be a little bit out there. I remember growing up, a lot of times people used to say, you have to be very careful the road that you go down.
mhm,
And in that road, and this is something that the Haitian culture teaches. Now, let's say with drugs, and I'm not saying this is all the case, but this is basically how we looked at when you're looking at your own forgiveness and your own sense of the direction that you take. And sometimes it's not necessarily the right way to go. So let's say for drugs, you may say, oh, well, okay, your friend say, "Oh, why don't you just try a little weed? You go, you try a little weed, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, that weed isn't enough. And then they're like, okay, try a little coke. And you go, oh, that coke isn't enough. And then they say, oh, why don't you try a little bit? She,
yeah,
a little bit of this.
yeah,
And then before you know it, instead of you looking at those situations, it took a while to get down that path.
mhm,
And then when you go down that path, you realize when you didn't catch yourself, you
yeah.
could spiral out of control.
Spiral out of control. Yeah.
And I think spiraling out of control to a sense that, okay, maybe it's not the drugs that's the situation. Because
Mhm.
when we people take drugs, but those drugs can cloud your judgment. And clouding that judgment will take you down a path you don't
You don't wanna go
never
to.
seen, or that you can't even face yourself because it it wasn't something you were even you couldn't fathom, you didn't think
Yeah,
about. It wasn't
yeah,
what you were around.
yeah.
Now caught up in such a bad situation
Mhm.
that you think there's a point of no return.
Yes. So it's almost okay, so would you consider that the battle between good and evil? And I don't know. What's your yeah, I don't know if that would be considered the battle of good and
I
evil.
I think I think it's a I think it's a battle. Honestly, I do think it's a battle in many ways, but I also think it's a lack of understanding what's going on. It's a lack of understanding that there's cause and effect and there's consequences to all of
Mhm.
it. And when your mind is younger and your mind is looking at something, and I think our parents try to keep us away from certain things because
Yeah,
they know what it can spiral out of control. It can spiral to this realm that you put yourself in such a situation that it's hard to get out of.
yeah,
And then you look at yourself like, "Oh my gosh, and then you beat yourself up."
yeah,
And a lot of that has to do with you gotta understand what's going on. You gotta understand the purpose of what's happening, why your parents said this, or why people around you, or to understand the effects of certain things. And
mhm.
I know the mind is young and you don't fully understand things. And I think because of that, a lot of times you just got to make a conscious choice and say, hey, I got to stop this, or hey, this is not doing good, or hey, I'm under the influence. This is not my spirit. This is
Yeah,
that I'm using to cloud facing it.
Yes.
And I think more people dive deeper because they can't face it and say, yeah, you sad, you unhappy. That's
Mhm.
why you're going that way. Or
Mhm.
trying to cloud, or you trying to fit in, or you can't. I think it's harder for people to deal with your true self and what you're looking for. It's
Mhm.
easier to fall into those.
Yeah. So tying it back to the forgiveness of oneself, how would you tie that back into your idea of what forgiveness means to you?
I think the thing is, you got to make a conscious decision within yourself to say, hey, okay, this is not me.
Mhm.
Fit on what you did or what have you is a part
Mhm.
of your life of experiences.
Yeah.
It's learning the cause and effect of certain things. It's learning the consequences. Now, when you continue on a road that you know is not for you and is not the
Mhm.
best road, now that's a whole different topic.
Mhm.
I think when you come to a point of saying, hey, this is not for me, this is not where I want to go, you have to consciously make a decision to change it, to look at what you did, to look at who you are,
Mhm.
want to be, and what soothes your spirit. And I
Yeah.
think that's hard for people to do. And that maybe is what you call forgiveness. I don't know, because I look at it like, all right, it's a learning experience. You made a mistake, whatever. A mistake is something you continuously make,
Yes.
no matter how it may be. I made a mistake. It's a learning experience. I'm going to learn from it and grow and you keep it moving.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times people have that tendency to look at what the world tells them what's right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And okay, the world's there because that's how we connect with each other and live in a civilized way. And you got to look at that because you don't want to hurt anyone. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
You want to live life in such a way that you're not hurting, but you're living your life to the fullest.
Mhm.
That's to me, that's what life is about. So sometimes I don't know what that forgiveness is. It's just a matter of coping with what you did and learning how to live better.
Yes. I would agree. I would agree. Yeah, I just think sometimes people make it we tend to make these words become our masters
Yeah.
in terms of how we deal with situations, how we deal with each other, how we deal with anything. Because it's so freely used, the word is so freely used that it doesn't have as much value anymore because people, I think sometimes people just do things because they believe, oh, this person, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness, right? Or I'm just going to do this, but that's okay. I'm just going to ask God for forgiveness. But there's only so many times at some point you have to take accountability for whatever it is that you've done, whether it's for yourself or to someone else, you have to take accountability. And asking for forgiveness is not accountability. Asking for somebody to forgive you, like we're talking about, like the three areas of forgiveness oneself, friendship, and family. It all depends on what it is. We can have a conversation and it doesn't have to be a situation where forgiveness has to happen, right? It's like somebody, it's like being two friends, right? Two good friends, two best friends, and then you go and you sleep with the best friend's husband, and you know that the best friend had husband and everything about that person, everything, how they think, how they feel, what they've shared with you about their husband or their boyfriend or their partner, whoever it is. Then you take that information and say, okay, let me take that information. Let me see how I can use it. And I'm not saying that all men will go for that, but some do and some women do that. Not all of them do it. But you take that information and then you go and you seduce that partner, that spouse, that the boyfriend, you seduce them and your friend finds out. And now you come to your friend and ask your friend for forgiveness. What the hell? Why would I, why should I be? forgiving you for using information you knew about me, but you took it to a different level. You be and not it's not just about forgiveness, it's the betrayal of
Yeah.
everything. So you want me to forgive you for what exactly? For doing something that you knew intentionally that would hurt me, that you didn't have enough willpower for yourself to say, you know what? I can't do this. This is my friend. I can't do this. This is my friend. This is the person that I've known forever. This is the person who knows all of my secrets or and it doesn't even have to be a like a close best friend. It's a friend. There's certain things you just don't do. There is just certain things you just don't do. There's just certain things you don't do. So to for somebody to come and say, "Oh, I did all of this to you," if you say I'm sorry, okay, I understand you're sorry. You did it. You're sorry. I know where to keep you, but don't come and ask me to forgive you because you were in full awareness of what you were doing. Don't come and ask me to forgive you because now you want me to carry your guilt that you for something that you did intentionally, but you want me to carry your guilt for what you did. And if I don't forgive you, now the ball is in my court. Now it's, oh, I did this and I know I was wrong. And I apologize and I asked her to forgive me, but she doesn't want to forgive me. This and that. She did this. Now all of a sudden it's about me when it should be about your character. It should be about what you did. So anyway, that's where I'll turn to you for what is your thought?
No, it's funny that you say that because I can't even fathom the thought because I feel it's a self-respect.
Yeah, it is.
Thing is, okay, for me or whomever, it don't
Mhm,
care what's going on inside of you that you don't even have your self-respect and your control over yourself and your direction and the mental capacity to not go there.
mhm.
Think of that. To not put yourself in a situation that will even be
An option.
right. And I'm like, that's why I think that critical thinking is so many people lack that
Mm,
because I think all of this has a lot to do with critical thinking
mhm,
and what you value because I value my friendship or and my self-respect. Why would I even take it to that level
mhm,
or ever? And I'm not saying that everything is that way, but for friends, that's how I value friendship. Now, my thing is, okay, let's say you do something that you just didn't realize that I think that's so far beyond. But let's say I've been in situations where I've said something like that to hurt you, Pierre.
yeah.
We had our little back and forth with Pierre
Mhm,
as friends. And I know Pierre was very important to you at that point in your life.
mhm,
And I know that I came across as being very aggressive, very boisterous, very
mhm,
loud in
mhm,
my opinion and what have you. And I wouldn't let things go. But I looked at the fact of how it affected you.
mhm, mhm.
And I took a step back. I never really asked you for forgiveness or
It wasn't a forgivable offense, but because we never thought about because it wasn't something that was in the culture, I don't think it was anything that I felt like I needed to forgive you for, or you felt like you needed to come and ask for forgiveness for. It was something that you felt strongly about. And okay, yes, you felt like I needed to take a step back. But I also took what you said to heart because you don't say things like that often. There's certain friends, people that they have an opinion about everything. So when they have the real opinion that really matters, it's hard for you to decipher between the two because they have an opinion about everything. So you don't know which way you're going.
yes.
So somebody come to you, it's just I said about even with Kenny. If somebody come to you and and did something and you have a very strong opinion about it, I have to take a step back and say, okay, she's not the type that talks a lot about people, situation, or whatever. If she feels that strongly about it, I need to take a look at it. I may not act in the manner that somebody might feel like get very not gossipy. I don't know what sometimes people tell you things and they expect you to jump right away. I'm an evaluator. I'm an analyst, true and true. Yes, you may say this to me and I understand what you're saying. I need to pay attention. I need to watch and see for myself. I'm not just going to jump just because you told me that you saw this or you told me to jump. I need to evaluate the situation. And with Pierre, even though he rubbed you the wrong way and you didn't like the fact that he grabbed my arm, you didn't like the way he did it, I understood your concern for me. And I think when you realize, okay, let me take a step back because I understood you, yes, and you went on, and it's okay, I need her to understand. And I understood that. And then once you realize that, okay, I see she heard me, let her deal with it. And then if there's a point where she wants to talk to me about it, then we'll talk about it. But at least I voiced my opinion. Some people want you to act right away just because they say, oh, they caught you and they don't know what situation that you're dealing with. They don't know what you have to do in order to even make an escape plan if you have to. Sometimes you just can't act. But whatever, it wasn't a forgivable request. It wasn't like it was an offense to forgive. I think people should focus more on being repentful, sorry for what they do to other people that caused them to be harmed, hurt them in any way, and not be so focused on asking for forgiveness because forgiveness is unloading your guilt on me. That's how I see it. You're asking me for forgiveness makes me feel like you just want to unload your guilt on me so you can feel better about yourself. But then I'm carrying your load. And what comes to mind for me was one of my favorite book, Eckhart Tolle. I can't remember the title of the book. I can't remember the title, but there was a passage in this book where these two monks came together. Monks are not supposed to touch women or whatever. And they were on this pilgrimage. And I may not be doing the story justice, but that's what I remember, how I remember. They're on this pilgrimage. They're walking down this field or this valley or whatever. And there's a woman with them. And the woman come across this pond and she's trying to figure out, how do I cross this pond? How do I get across? And one of the monks picked her up when he's not supposed to, picked her up to help her across the pond. The other monk was so taken aback, just blustering about the fact that this monk touched this woman and picked her up. And he's going on and on about it. And the other monk who did the woman up and to help her across the pond was like, I did it and I left that load back a long time ago. He was able to move on because he analyzed the situation, right? What am I going to do? Because this belief tells me I'm in this sort of religion. I'm not supposed to touch a woman. I'm not supposed to have a physical touch with a woman. This woman is in need. Do I follow what I believe and leave her stranded when she doesn't have any way to get around, where I can help her and deal with the consequences, whatever they may be later? Or do I just ignore the fact that she's in need and I just move on? He did the analytical thing and thought about it and helped her across. Now he had to live with himself and ask himself the question. He can justify why he did what he did. And it's not about, and if there's a forgiveness, that forgiveness had nothing to do with you. the other person, the other monk. It's between me and, yep, the man or the woman above or the universe or whoever you believe your God to be. It's not about me. So I think sometimes people overuse this word of forgiveness when they really should be looking deep down inside themselves and ask the question, why did I feel the need to do this? I hurt this person. I hurt my friend. I said something terrible to the stranger. I looked down on this homeless person. Why did I feel the need to do that? What is it about me, inside of me, that caused me to do this thing? And like you say, once you understand the cause and effect, once you know what it is that you did and why you did it, then you give way for you not to do it again. But oftentimes I see people ask for forgiveness of others for certain situations, and then they go back and do the same thing over again. So why are you asking me for forgiveness if you're going to go around and do the same thing all over again?
And could that be a Haitian trait? It's like, okay, don't ask me if you're gonna do it again because you're really not sorry.
You're not sorry. Because if you're doing it again and you have no self control, if you're doing it again, do not come to me and ask me for forgiveness. You can say, I'm sorry.
It's intentional. It's intentional.
It's intentional. Anything that you have to me, anything that you have to ask for forgiveness of is intentional because you know that you shouldn't have done it. But because you're thinking like, you know what, if I do this, I'll just ask them for forgiveness and they'll forgive me. No, don't come to me. Don't come to me with that because that's not something that we grew up with.
And one thing I say, Emily says, you know what? There's no grudge like a Haitian grudge. Because we will hold a grudge for generations. Okay? I'm
Absolutely.
woo,
Absolutely. It's funny you said that because I remember Kenny and I were having a conversation and I was thinking like, you know what? No, I don't hold grudges and this and I had to come to the realization. And I told him and he laughed so hard. I'm like, you know what? I hold grudges. I do hold grudges. And I'm gonna own it. It depends on the level. There are levels to it. There are levels to it, but I hold the grudge. And there's nothing wrong with that because not everything that happens is a forgivable event. If you kill my family member, you can't come to me. You take my child, you unalive my child, and then you're going to stand because now it's fitting for you. When you were doing it, you knew it was wrong. You didn't think about it. Your impulses caused you to do this act to take the life of somebody I love. And now, for your convenience, in order for you to save your soul or whatever is going to happen to you, you're going to come and ask me for forgiveness. Hell to the no. I'm not forgiving you. You need to go speak to that's who can forgive you, not me, because I'm without a loved one. And you're still walking around. Now you're dumping your guilt on me because if I didn't forgive you, now I'm a bad person for not forgiving you. Now people are looking at me a certain way for not forgiving you when you took somebody I love, but then you want to dump on me your guilt for me to carry so you can feel good about yourself. No, rock with it. That's where I stand. Rock with it. Mm-mm. Sorry. A little passionate about that, but there's certain things it's not a matter of forgiving. I will accept an apology, but don't come and ask me to forgive you because apologies and forgiveness are two different things. Two different things.
and but when someone does apologize to a point that let's say that they did do you wrong, I understand. I recognize your apology.
Hmm.
But you have the choice to say to you, either I forgive you and let's continue where we left off.
Hmm.
Which I wouldn't say I forgive you. It's a matter of it'll be understood.
Yes.
where we go off. But then let's say if it was to a point that I think, wait a minute now, there's a lot of thought that went into doing this and what have you. All right, yes, yes. I understand you apologize. Yep.
Mhm.
But the other choice is I don't want to continue. Our relationship changes, you know,
Absolutely.
to keep it at a distance. But I'm not going to sit there and, let's say, badmouth you. I'm not going to sit there and just like constantly put you down or whatever.
Mhm.
My thing is, I understand where you stand. This is where I stand. The boundaries are very well set at that point
Yeah,
because at
absolutely.
this point, I know certain things I can trust you with and certain things I cannot trust you with.
Absolutely.
And depending on the transgression,
Mhm.
time, maybe it'll come to a point that our relationship will reestablish itself.
Yes.
Or let's say, if it's like with a loved one, let's go back to the wedding portion.
Mm.
The
Mhm.
wedding, she said, like I was saying, she said, it's easy to love you.
Yeah.
Someone says that it's to a point that I trust your character. I
Mhm.
trust in your character. And
Mhm.
I know you have proven to me that you have an utmost in character.
Yes.
Someone like that, let's say, does something to you or did something that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they did it. In your heart, that's not their character. In
Yes.
your heart, okay, I have grace.
Yes.
Make mistake is grace. It's not who you are. We all make mistakes. In that instance, it's so easy to not even think of forgiveness, to know because of the fact you're so easy to love and your spirit is so there that we all
Warm.
fix.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that you're going to constantly say, this is not me. And you're going to make a conscious decision and choices going forward.
Yes.
And to me, that you can't help but love a person like that. You
Yeah.
can't help but forgive a person, so to speak, for that, because that's what I'm a firm believer. Character and values matter.
Yes. Absolutely. And what you said, I agree with. And it's not even about the fact that person have to ask you for forgiveness. It's an understanding. It's an automatic thing that is innate because of the way that they are, because of the person that they are, because of the value that they owe, because of who they are. I did this thing and I'm so sorry. Now it's your choice to decide based on how you react if that is going to be something that, okay, I understand you. You did this because of this. All right, let's move on. Let's take the next step forward. But they're not coming to ask you for forgiveness because they did this. There, you understand, and it's an understanding. And sometimes there that connection is there that you do give that understanding. Why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? So you just move on. So yeah, it's a little different.
So, what do you think about family? Do you think it's even different, more so with family?
I think so with family. It's it's even hard for me to say the word. I think it's life. I think it's the steps and the process and the things that goes on in families, right? Again, like you said, if you did something that was so egregious, I'm keeping away from you. I'm dealing with you at arm's length. Don't come and ask me for forgiveness.
Yeah.
I still stand by asking for someone for forgiveness is your way of unloading your guilt onto me. And I don't want to deal with it. You can apologize. Okay, I'm still going to keep you at a distance, but do not ask me to forgive you because I don't know if I have the capacity to be able to do that depending on the situation. And you should not ask, I shouldn't.
Do you think it's a survival thing, though? Do you think because of the fact that it's okay if I'm in there in the woods and the lion took my foot, I can't say to the lion, like, okay, lion, I forgive you for taking my foot because it's not going to matter. But what I am going to say is, I'm not going to go near you. I know where you are.
Yeah.
I was my distance.
Yeah.
Understand, hey, you like my feet. You
Mhm.
like eat my flesh. So to keep you over there and be very cautious
Mhm.
in maneuvering around wherever you are or what have you. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that's a
Yeah. It's an awareness.
survival. And to me, when you forgive and then that person comes back to get you, oh my God, it's a survival.
Yeah, there's so many layers to this word forgiveness. It's so packed, which it is so much weight that comes with that word. There is so much weight.
So let me
It,
ask this because I think for me, this forgiveness, especially when it comes to religion and when
mhm.
it comes to how we teach our children, because I don't know if ever necessarily taught my children that. What I taught my children growing up was more so the fact of you got to understand why people do things. And what if you did that? Wouldn't you want someone to still be your friend with little things of teaching them more of the emotional aspect of
Yeah.
it, of
Mhm.
people interact and what people do and the causation factor within that, especially at different age levels,
Yeah.
for them to understand you gotta be careful, especially if the culture is different and knowing that you're a minority too, because that impacts a lot of how
Mhm.
you interact
Mhm.
and how you open yourself up to other people. Because, if you're not careful, you can get hurt in many ways if you don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I think with the religious aspect of, okay, you gotta forgive them or no, this is I don't agree with that, and I'm just not a part of that because I think that the religion is a mindset of trying
It's control.
shape or groom yet to that factor of how you look at things and how things are, maybe to keep a civil order, but
How you deal with your emotion when somebody has trampled rather on your emotion. It
instead of dealing with the emotion. And I think that's why everybody's in therapy because nobody talks about your feelings. What's sadness? What's rage or anger going to rage? Or
mhm.
you got to learn what causes that. Why do
Mhm.
you feel the way you do? Why do you respond the way you do? And I think we have to learn how to manage our emotions. And
Yeah.
that impacts a lot of our actions of why we do things. You
Absolutely.
know, that
Absolutely.
nobody talks about that. But how you tell a kid, oh, okay, you just forgive them. No, I think you got to explain it to them. You,
Yeah.
that's where the discernment comes in, discerning what's happening, what you're doing, and what have you. And I don't we teach them to be critical and
Mhm.
and we don't teach a level of emotional, you know,
Intel
intelligence, but aware.
mhm. But also, I think part of that is that people don't like dialogue. People don't like to talk things out to understand. People, like you said, our emotion, something happened and we get very riled up very quickly. And then we're jumping off to somewhere else instead of having a conversation. Okay, you did this to me. I don't like it. No, everybody wants to move quickly, brush it off like it didn't exist. How can we have closure? How can we have dialogue? How can we address a situation when you don't want to have a discussion? Because it's not going to address itself. It's not going to, what we're in is denial.
Yeah.
I don't, it's so bad. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. So if I don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. It exists in my world because it happened. So, like I said, this word that we can talk forever about forgiveness. But because it's not something that we grew up talking or asking of each other, I don't know how to really, you know, how to really unpack it, to be
One
honest.
one thing, Joe, to add to this is that accountability. In our culture, we will hold you accountable. And no matter who that may be,
Yes.
let's say you did something wrong. Let's say, you slept with someone you shouldn't have slept with. Okay, let's just say that. I'm just culture will be the neighbors will know you slept with that person. The person at the grocery store will know you slept with that person. The bus
Ooh,
will know you slept with that person. Every time you walk down the street, they will say, "Oh, that's the person that slept with that person, and they know they shouldn't have slept with them." And it will be disgusting.
they don't let you forget.
And it's accountability.
Yeah.
We that type of culture. We're gonna hold you accountable. And that's the thing. That's the order of things. And that's where the character and values matter. I say all that to say, because going back to this whole presidential debate situation in the cats and dogs, and knowing how the Haitian community is now trying to file charges
Antenna is up.
and how they say, we vote. Yes, we do vote. But I'm going to tell you this, they will never, ever forget it. And it will
Never.
always be thrown there because no, we're going to hold you accountable and we want the world to know that you were wrong. And because that's our only means of basically saying this can't happen again.
And it's a matter of, okay, standing up for yourself. There's only so much you can say that you want respect or you want change, but you don't want to take any action. You don't want to take any action. And and I guess in a way, even
You
if I,
They want to call us uncivilized.
yeah,
I'm just saying that to say because he's continuing, but yet we can make a change, but he can't. And he's supposed, you know what I'm
to be
saying?
yeah, he's supposed to be civilized. No, y- that's not civility. That's not being civilized. Yeah. So it's just a very kind of tough topic in a way to talk about that because it unlocked there's a lot of triggers that
Right.
come with that. There's a lot of triggers that comes with that. Whether it's for yourself, for your family, your friends, there's a lot of triggers that come with having to forgive. What am I forgiving you for? And but yeah, the Haitian community, the don't like to ask for forgiveness for nothing. They I it's all the time growing up, I can honestly say, even when my stepfather was cheating on my mother, even when there was nothing, and even with my own father, look at this. Now, when people hear this story, and I'm talking about this whole forgiveness thing, when people hear this story, they're like, your father must have something that he needs to bottle up. My father is the only child of my grandmother. And he had a lot of women. And we know that in the Haitian community, there's multiple families, right? Multiple families. In other cultures, in some cultures, two different girlfriends or ex-wives could not sit at the same table. We had a family reunion when my grandmother passed away. Maybe it was like maybe 10 years after or so she passed away. We had this family reunion. My sister set it up. And all of us, we're one father, but there's so many of us. We are an island of our own with the amount of siblings that I have. And that's another topic for another time. But I have a lot of siblings. During that reunion, you have all the ex girlfriends, the ex mistresses or whatever, who was once with my dad, all coming together, sitting at the table, sitting at a table, having conversations with one another. There's nothing like, oh, stop. They're all having conversations. It's about their time with my father when they were with him. Oh, when I was with Michelle, until today, my father is in Haiti. He never asked for forgiveness. He never asked these women, oh, sorry, that he just moved on with his life. And these women moved on with their lives. But until today, if something happens to my father and he called any one of them and say, I need something, they're all calling their kids to bring everybody together to make sure that my dad's okay. And not one have a negative thing to say about that man. Not one. They might have negative, but when they come together, there's no infighting, none of that animosity. Oh, it'll be like, oh, is that you're Michelle this? Oh, with so and so, Michelle this. Oh, and they'll laugh about it. They have this. I'm like, where do you see this at?
Okay, let me just say this. That's special with your family.
But
That would not happen in my family. That that wouldn't happen in my family.
oh, oh
But
my God.
I think that's just special. Maybe I think your dad is probably one of those folks like how she was saying he's just so easy to love because of his character. No matter what transpired, he still has a good heart, a good spirit in such a way that for people to want to do that, no matter what, come on. Now we know some Haitian people, even if that's the case, they're not doing nothing for you. They're
Yeah,
like, bro, no.
yeah, we're done.
But really,
Well,
we
be
gotta
honest
do
with
it proper
you.
way.
No, I don't. To be
Once
honest with you, I'm gonna have to disagree on that one because I don't even with even I look at my brothers, I look at some of my cousins, the ones that are in like have Haitian girlfriends or whatever, even if they're not together, they're always together. They're always together. In terms of that child, you may have moved on to have another husband or another boyfriend, but
that's true.
we're always together.
I agree with that because even like in my family, even if you do move on, we don't divorce you. Okay. That's a different, no, we divorce you. You no longer, we don't divorce you.
Yeah.
Family, period. You're part of
To the family you're in, once you're in that in your family.
true. But I don't know, growing up, we saw a lot of drama when it came to women and their husbands and that the
Yeah,
Haitian.
for a lot of drama. There were a lot of dramas. But what I'm saying is that when we're talking about forgiveness, there's like all this, I won't say casualty, but there's all this history of all of this stuff happening. Not once did this person say, oh, I have to forgive you for this. No, they're like, oh, okay. He moved on to the next woman. All right, but I have his kids. We're still talking. I don't know how to explain it,
Right.
but people who heard of my father, who knows of Kenny's, I was like, when he first met and saw it, witness it, he was like, whatever your father has, he needs to bottle it and sell it.
That's what you call a true Superman. Let me just say that.
That is
Man.
years and years and years in the making. And I think most of that is probably due to my grandmother who kept the women grounded. It's okay. You with my son, just know I'm letting you know he's a womanizer. And if you with him, he's gonna be with this other person. And this other person, can you deal with that? Because there's no fighting. Can you deal with that? And that was my grandmother. She brought them together. You having my grandchild, I just need you to know what's going on. You either take it or leave it, but this is how it is.
That's true. At least you know it.
Yeah, you get to make a choice. You make a decision if that's what you want to do. But yeah, that kind of fall in line. I don't know. Does that fall in line with the family forgiveness kind of thing?
I think so. Even let's say you have down, you may have a moment or money situation or whatever. Eventually, it's okay, fine. I know not to lend you or whatever with money,
You're still family.
but in our family, we gonna let you know. Yeah, I ain't lending you any money because you don't pay back. That's
At
and,
least that's in your mind.
and everyone will know. But we still gonna be there and love you and talk and laugh and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Even if you did some drugs, we'll still say, "Hey, you did some. Are you on that stuff?" But we still
But
there.
I don't even look at that as hard as because when we grew up, there was a serious effort to make sure that none of us got hooked on drugs. To the point, I was so traumatized about I don't know if I want to use the word traumatized because that could also be an overused word, but to the point that I couldn't even take an aspirin if I was in pain because I was afraid of being addicted to over the counter. And I was in my teens. And I remember having such bad menstrual cramps. And I couldn't even bring myself to take a pill to ease the pain because in the back of my mind, I was going to get addicted to it.
But that I don't know. I'm not gonna say that has anything to do with your family, honestly. I'm saying because of your character and my character, because we saw what was going on.
Yeah.
And the type of people that we made a conscious decision, that's not us, that's not our life. I don't like how that turned out. I know I'm better than that.
Hmm.
I must tell you, everyone, we have friends that we never thought would even fall into that area that were close to us, that grew up, that loved it, that got, souped in, so to speak, and was there. And it broke our hearts.
It broke our hearts.
What people,
Yeah. People that you,
yeah, sometimes I think that we were lucky in many ways.
yeah.
People had strong characters and strong values, and we could see it coming. And I think that was what our family taught us. That coming, that's problem.
Yeah.
That's bad news.
Hmm.
Stay away from it. So we were taught if you see problems, like it doesn't look good and it's not what you used to and it doesn't feel good, you go the opposite way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you don't go near there was how we lived our lives. Because
Yeah.
even our lives today, that same way. Because I could tell you, like right now, certain people will invite me over. And if I know that they're doing something, I'm like, oh no. I like you, but I can't go to your house. And they'll be like, why not? And I'm thinking to myself, because you doing that, it could be a raid, something can happen, and I'm gonna be in the midst of that. Oh no, that's problems right there. No.
Hmm.
Think you're nice and wonderful, but no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But I'm so trained that I can see that coming. So
Yeah. I don't even, to be honest, I don't even look at it the same way as how we used to look at it back in the day. Nowadays, weed is legalized everywhere and it doesn't carry the weight that it used to back in the day. Now you're talking about opioids and other things and stuff like that. I can't say that I still feel the same way, but I know for me, it's not something that I want to do. It's not where I want to hang my hat because of that training, because of the, okay, if you do this is going to happen. It's always in the back of my head. It's always there. But that's just for me. But I'm not like judging anybody else according to that anymore because I think that whole training did a lot to program us in a way that is detrimental in a way to yourself because of how you think of everything.
yeah, I hear you. But back in the day too, Okay, let's say weed. I understand that's legalized. I get
Mhm.
it. I don't look at that as being like major.
Yeah.
How we grew up, that was such a small piece of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Back then, yeah, absolutely.
And what back in the day, when you talked about drugs, you talk about gangs,
Mhm.
talk about power dynamics and control and gangs building and all of that.
Mhm.
Now, that's the part that we could see. Everything was so small because it was so much greater than that. When people had weed, okay, fine, but they had a lot more other stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I agree.
Growing up in Miami was very interesting for sure. Or so much went on. Yeah. But yeah, it's just a different time, a different dynamic with everybody, how people look at things. And
My friend, I tell you, this was interesting. And I'm hoping that at least people learn a little bit about our culture and learn how we take things and at least our attitude towards a lot of the forgiveness factor and how we try to hold each other accountable. And I'm interested to know about other cultures, like how do they look at it and what do they do and how do they progress and stuff? Because I know we all deal with it in our own ways.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's interesting. But I don't know if you have any like final words to give the audience or what have you when it
Yeah.
comes to forgiveness.
Yeah. What final word would I have for the audience? I think more than anything, if you did something to someone that you believe requires you to ask for forgiveness, I think it's also very important for you to sit down and ask why you feel that you need the forgiveness. And instead of asking them for forgiveness, take the accountability and the responsibility to not do the thing, because no matter whatever it is that you did, it's still out there, and forgiveness doesn't erase it. And that is something that you constantly have to live with yourself. Someone forgiving you for doing something to them is not going to take it away. So I think it's important for you to understand and analyze what you did and how you will make better decisions going forward to not do that. Instead of, the individual themselves can't give you forgiveness. The only person that could forgive you is the universe, through the universal powers in yourself. So I just think it's a matter of self reflection more so than of asking someone else to forgive you.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Or L coming back at you. If you like it, thumbs up and hit like. If you can't get enough, hit the subscribe.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Have a great
Bye.
Ride or die. Talk to you soon.